Okay, so welcome to the show. We are talking about cosplay photography, and my guest host once again is Charlie Christine, who is a professional model, and she's done a little bit of cosplay modeling, and I'll show you a picture that I didn't take. She did a steampunk shoot, what, about 2 or 3 months ago?
Yeah, over the summer.
Oops, can you see that? Whoops.
Let me check it and make sure we don't
I
cut
did.
the...
I made it.
You blew it up.
I zoomed in.
We blew shit up.
This is live. So there's her steampunk shoot of a few months ago. Photographer. Who was the photographer on that?
That was Aaron. He has his special name, so I don't want to call him the wrong one and give him away. He's awesome. I can turn over that information for sure.
Well, this show is for people who do cosplay, and they go through all the trouble of buying or making their outfit or having someone make their outfit for them, and makeup and maybe hair, just the whole thing. And you go through all that trouble. You want them to have, or they want to have probably, a really good picture. And that's what this show's about. It's how can you get really good pictures? So that's one side of it. Or maybe you're a photographer and you want to shoot cosplay pictures, because that can be a lot of fun. I do that from time to time. I've got a few pictures I can show you. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about both sides of that. If you're interested in either one, that's what we will be covering. Like I said, Charlie did this. So you did the steampunk one. Mm-hmm. And before that, you did a photo shoot as Wonder Woman.
I've been Wonder Woman.
Have you done any other superheroes or?
I've been dressed up to be a lot of things. You can find me on FetLife.
We will. Well, we'll do. I
played some interesting characters.
We did a video. So you were on a date with an alien.
Oh yeah.
So we've got that.
About that.
Yeah. Yep,
when are we going to have that edited and put up?
Someday when I have a little bit of time. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about that process. Whether you're a photographer interested in shooting cosplay, or you're a cosplayer who would like to connect with a photographer who does cosplay, or maybe as a cosplayer you want to take your own pictures and you want them to look better. There's some simple things you can do that will make your pictures look a lot better, and you'll be a lot happier when you share them on Facebook. First thing we'll talk about is if you are a cosplayer and you want to find a photographer.
Ooh.
So
where do they go, Mitch?
Well, but actually, if you're a cosplayer, probably for most people right now, the simplest thing to do actually would be to look on Facebook and see.
Facebook's a good place.
You can do a little bit of searching, and you can also ask other people on Facebook, and then you can look at their pictures and see. There are more and more people who are doing cosplay photography. The photographer doesn't have to be a cosplay photographer. They can just be a good photographer.
You just need a good photographer. Well, someone who has an imagination, that helps. I mean, I've seen some pretty awesome stuff shot by people who don't know much about cosplay, but know about the superheroes and have a good imagination.
And if you don't want to spend money, or as much money, I think on Facebook, you're more likely to find the advanced amateur who's not trying to make their living as a photographer, because some photographers, you can go to something like Model Mayhem or other websites that connect photographers and models, and some of them want to charge a lot of money, but there are a lot of them who are just building up their portfolio and would be thrilled to have a free model and a chance to.
That, and I think that models who are doing cosplay, it's more a hobby for them as well. So they're probably not as likely to charge, and they've spent a lot of time. They have invested themselves because they made their costume and they want to get that off the ground and be able to have something to go on their Facebook pages.
Right.
Right. I mean, versus, if you go and you get a professional model or something, she's happy to do it and she might nail the look, but she needs to be, she's going to expect to be paid for it, because modeling is not a hobby necessarily for her. And most people who even want modeling to be a hobby look at it as extra money, versus cosplay. I don't think it's looked at that way. I
guess another thing, if you're a cosplayer.
Not that cosplayers can't make money.
They can. And I have a couple of friends.
Yeah, they totally do.
Who do. I guess another thing you can do, or a strategy, if you're on Facebook, Instagram, you probably are friending other cosplayers, and look through their pictures, and you see some pictures you really like, get in touch with that cosplayer and say, hey, because they're a local one, say, hey, who is your photographer? Can you can you connect me with your photographer? It's not that hard. Just start reaching out to people, and I think you can find someone who's really good. And on the other side of that, if you're a photographer and you want to find cosplayers to photograph, actually the first thing I do, or that I did, was, now I'm in Dallas, and I go to the Comic-Cons, and I go with my camera, and as I see cosplayers, I just very politely approach them and ask to take their picture. And the ones who are really good, sometimes I'll say, if you're interested, if you're local and you'd like to do a photo shoot sometime, and I give them my card. But if you're a photographer, yeah, you should give them your card. That's nice. But you really need to get their contact information, because odds are if you hand them your card, you're not going to hear back from them. They're going to forget about it. They're caught up in the moment. You're not there.
They lose them and don't remember who you are.
Yeah.
Totally. I've been a model at a trade show.
They're at Comic-Con. You're one of hundreds of people who's going to stop them for pictures, because everybody stops to take pictures of the cosplayers. So get their contact information. Don't be creepy about it. Be very friendly. And if they decline, don't press the issue. There are hundreds of men and women who dress up at Comic-Cons.
Well, and a lot of them don't have, I've noticed business cards are going away. They're kind of dying.
Mm-hmm.
But what you can do is you can easily find them on Facebook right then, do a selfie with them. They love that. And then post it. I mean, usually if they're at Comic-Con, they love that. They like the attention and stuff.
That's a really good idea.
So, I think, doing a selfie with them or getting a shot of them and then saying, which Facebook page are you on? Even just following them can be a jump start. So
that's a great idea. And once again, you can do searches. A professional model is probably going to be expensive, but a professional model who wants to do cosplay, if you want to make those kinds of pictures that are just really spectacular, a good model like Charlie is going to make the pictures amazing, because she knows how to pose. She knows how to find the light. She knows how to express herself in a way that looks really good on camera. She's not nervous about it. She's very comfortable. You're going to get great pictures if you shoot with a good professional model.
I think it depends the goal of the photographer. Mm-hmm. If you have more time available and you don't mind going through the process with not a polished model, there you go, somebody who's also learning, that can be a really enjoyable journey and a good starting point to keep it in a budget if you feel that money is the issue. Some people value their time more, and if you want to more efficiently become somebody who's earning money, I would recommend going straight to the professionals, because your port's going to come along a lot quicker, and they're also going to know a lot more of the formality of what goes on when you're shooting. So, you get what you pay for, but you have the choice of cost of money or cost of time. Which do you have the most of?
Now, sometimes, and this is how I have reached out to a few professional models who typically charge to model, but when they find out it's a cosplay shoot, are willing to do a trade.
Yeah, if you have really good costumes and either you're willing to trade the costume for the shoot and you get first dibs on shooting that, or you want credit, or like you said, sometimes just the look. If you can be a ordinary photographer and a model will sometimes take the trade because they want the costume, and maybe you'll give them full res and then they can take it and spoof up your kind of par lighting, because I know that I'm guilty of that. Sometimes if somebody is really good at one thing and I want that, if I can get an image that is quality enough canvas, I'll take it and spruce it up to my standard. And then at least they're getting something that they want. So, I have a friend who told me, it's not usually a compromise unless everybody's hurting a little bit when they walk away. So you kind of got to figure out, what are you valuing the most? What do you want the most of? And everyone gets a win and everyone's going to have a little bit of a loss.
So if you're a photographer, I recommend, once again, going to a Comic-Con. I'll show you. Let me bring up I've met most of my cosplay models at Comic-Cons. Now, here's a picture I took. I believe this was last October in Dallas at the Comic-Con fan days. And what I have been doing, and I'm going to change my habit, was I typically will get a picture of the entire outfit. So head to toe, see the whole outfit. And I'm really getting ready. And so I've got hundreds of pictures like that. Mm-hmm. And they're fun. I like them, but I want to do something a little bit different. Here's another one. This is one I really like. Let's flip that over.
Which goes.
So that's another full body shot. And they're a lot of fun, and you can get those really, really quick. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the technique. Now, I got a little tiny bit closer on this one. Let's see, I'll get up there and get, and like I said, most of the time, here's something I did a little bit different. Sometimes you forget, you get these shots, and I'm guilty of this at Comic-Cons, to get a close-up. And this time I went for a real nice close-up. Actually, what I did, that picture was not a close-up. I cropped that. When I cropped it, I went, oh, there's the picture. I discovered it after the fact.
I love steampunk. It's one of my favorites.
I love doing steampunk. I'm starting to see steampunk a lot more at these shows. That was not at a Comic-Con. That was FinCon.
The costumes are so much fun.
So,
I mean, they're all fun, but steampunk is I love it.
So then,
it's cool.
I'll talk a little bit about how I shoot at Comic-Cons. And we're going to talk a little bit about lighting. So this is heavy and expensive in what I take. This is a Canon. This is the 7D, which is a little bit older camera now. Still a fantastic camera for stills and video. And I also have the Canon Speedlight on it. This is I think it's the 580 EX2. And I do something, okay, I'm going to get a little geeky if you're a photographer. This is a little geeky if you're not. I'll just take a second. What you can do is, I've got the flash on the camera, but it's aimed behind me and off to the side. So
He's bouncing it.
I bounce the light off the wall behind me, but off to the side so it's directional. And so I try to get just a few feet in front of the wall and then have the model just in front of me. And so the light doesn't blast them in the face. Without getting technical, what happens is you get this big, nice, large light source that's very soft and flattering. It looks really, really good. Because when you go into these Comic-Cons, they've got fluorescent lights. It's not real flattering. So if you don't have a flash or some kind of light, you can still get good pictures, but it looks a lot better if you do this. And FYI, like I said, for the geeks, I set my color temperature to strobe, which is roughly the same as daylight. That works as well. But I also shoot in RAW so that I can correct the color temperature in Lightroom later if I'm off. Because I want the colors to look good. Another little tip is when you put it in Lightroom or Photoshop or whatever, I don't do a whole lot of post-processing. But one thing I like to do with cosplay that I don't do with much other photography is I'm willing to bump up the saturation a little bit so that the colors pop more. I'm not going for realism. And for a lot of colorful outfits, if you boost the chroma, now watch that their face doesn't start turning orange or weird colors. You got to kind of, once it starts affecting their skin tone, you probably need to back off a little bit. But that's a little thing you can do. Another thing I rarely do with women, but I will do sometimes with cosplayers, is I'll adjust the sharpness. Yeah. Generally, I don't like to do that with women. I don't soften it either. But
I notice a lot of people can kind of go overboard with the sharpening. Like if it starts looking crunchy on the sides and your lines start looking kind of weird and crunchy is the only way I could describe it. You went overboard on your, what is that? Your sharpening.
Your sharpening can look really, really bad with guys. And if you're shooting guys with cosplay,
clarity.
You can turn that clarity up. You can deliberately distort it. Rough. It can look really badass on guys.
They look all grungy and
they can look all grungy and you get that
yummy
grunge look. Not usually great for women, but some women actually kind of want to look like that too. But
depends the look.
Yeah, it depends on what you want.
So when you're talking about these pictures, are you talking in regards to studio shooting, or are you talking about?
That is both. My approach, I don't do that. My post-production on the Comic-Con pictures and the studio pictures is not radically different.
Yeah.
Because I am controlling the light. I'm very conscious of the light. So it's really not very different. As a matter of fact, a bounced light with this strobe is not that different from having a big studio strobe in terms of the quality of light that you're using. So
sometimes though, there's not a lot to bounce off of. So there's a lot of different kinds of diffusers you can use on your on-camera flash that you might want to look for if you realize that most of the Comic Cons you're going to, or the costume events, or whatever you're photographing. Yeah, so that it's, because sometimes you're stuck and you're like, oh crud, I don't got a wall, the ceiling's really high, what am I going to use?
If you want, I'm going to put this in the show notes.
Yeah.
There's a really good blog called the Tangents blog. There's a photographer in New York, New Jersey named Neil. I'm going to butcher his name. Neil von Niekerk. He's Dutch, and I don't know how to pronounce his name exactly correctly. So you can find him. You can just Google or just go to the Tangents blog. Like I said, I'll put a link to it in the show notes. He explains how to do the bounced on-camera flash. As a matter of fact, he has a book, and I believe the second edition of that book is just now coming out. It's an excellent book. He also has workshops, so a plug for Neil. He's a good guy. It will change the way you shoot if you happen to be a photographer. I don't see many. I run into a lot of professional photographers when I shoot this way, and they're always shocked because they don't know how to do it. But it's really quick. He does it. He shoots a lot of weddings, and these are big, expensive weddings, and he has to be all over the place. And so he developed that technique so he could get very flattering lighting at a wedding without dragging a big light on a stand all over the place. I also learned
you can actually use your hand over it and cup it to steer it. That actually works. Surprised me.
Now, a simpler thing, and this works at a Comic-Con. There's the Comic-Con I'm going to Saturday in Irving, Texas, is at the Irving Convention Center. And there's a giant, the north-facing wall, I believe it's a north-facing wall, is glass. So I've got this gigantic north-facing window.
You have like a big old light source.
It is, yeah, they call it God light. Some photographers say it's probably the best light that you'll ever shoot with. It can really look amazing. So what I like to do at the Irving Convention Center, because I've shot there before, is hang out in that area and pull cosplayers in and then move them into a good light. Like so that their faces they're facing the north window, and so I'm between them and the window. So I'm facing south, shooting them, and it can really, really look good. It's really easy. You really need to know how to use your camera because what you've got is a bright lit person and it's dark around them. Mm-hmm. So that can fake out your exposure meter, and it may overexpose. So you need to learn how to override the settings on your camera. Basically, you're not going to be able to get great pictures no matter what you're doing if you're shooting in all auto. You really need to learn how to shoot in manual. At the very least, shoot aperture priority. When I shoot with the flash on the camera is on manual. I find a decent exposure. I'm about a stop or two down. And then I let the flash take care of the exposure. The flash is on TTL. Mm-hmm. And even though I'm bouncing it, it still exposes it correctly. Like I said, I'll try to stay away from the geeky stuff.
We like the geeky stuff.
If you get more ambitious, you're probably not going to be able to take lights around with you at a Comic-Con. So
I probably wouldn't carry that much.
I wouldn't want
either.
to.
That's a lot. It kind of gets in the way, and
it's a pain. But you'd
get a better response from the models and stuff if you bring candy. There's people who do that. There was a guy who walked around with a big backpack of Halloween candy once, and us models followed him around.
I'm going to remember that. See, I just learned something really good.
In his pocket. I mean, we loved him.
You can also, now there are small LED lights that you can use.
Oh, those are awesome. The consistent ones.
So you could, especially if you have somebody helping you when you're shooting a Comic-Con, they can be the light. Have them a little bit to the side of you mm-hmm. and above, because you want their nose shadow off to the side, but not quite touching the top of the lip. That tends to be a really flattering light for most people. You don't want to put the LED light on the camera facing straight at the model. In general, there are actually against a wall, you can get kind of a high fashion look, but in general, if you've got an LED light, if you can hold it off to the side, there are little bitty ones. I'll also recommend, there's a company called...
Good. There's ones you can mount on the camera and stuff too. You can diffuse it if it's too bright as well. And I think it has a dial where you can turn it up and turn it down.
Most of them let you. Now, there's another light I want to let you know about that I found out about called the Rotolight, Rotolight. I'm going to put this in the show notes.
That's like this one, right, that we use?
It's a round light. They're not... Good. We're using a ring light, and we'll talk about that next. It's called the Rotolight Neo. I think it's like $300. I can't remember. Really, it's probably 12, 14 inches.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an amazing light. It's battery powered. Depending on the model, you can adjust how intense it is. Although, I mean, it'll even work outside when you're overcoming the sun a little bit. It looks fantastic. Once again,
it's a good fill light.
If you're doing that, like I said, at a Comic-Con, you're going to need an assistant to hold it, because either someone's going to have to hold it or you're going to have to put it on a light stand. Generally, you're not going to be able to hold the camera in one hand and the rotolight in the other and take a picture. Another light, while we're talking about lighting, this is not going to be appropriate for Comic-Con, but if you're on location, indoors or out, there's a company called Diva Light. Is it Diva Light? Once again, I'll put the link in the show notes. We are probably 18 inches in diameter is about what it looks like. And we're actually using it to light us right now. Nova Light. Okay, that's the Nova Light. And so the model is the Diva.
They're not that expensive, and they're really good. They're good for motion picture. They're good for stills.
These things are awesome.
Idiot proof. Like, you just turn it on, and if you're someone who's comfortable shooting outdoors, it's that same feeling. It's
now it's not battery powered, so you're gonna need AC.
Yeah, you could get the battery pack and plug it in, or you can.
You're still probably more likely going to use it indoors, but you can use it outdoors.
The catch light's really pretty in them too, because it's circle.
Yep. Circle lights, look at the eye light. If you zoom in on the eyes, when you look at the picture, you'll see the round light.
The glint.
Let's see what we've got here. I've got my little notes. We've talked about lighting. North window, free. You can almost always find a north window for shooting. If you're shooting yourself, if you're if you're going to set up a camera on a tripod with a time delay or a remote control, you can light yourself with a north-facing window. A big north-facing window is going to look very, very flattering. Mm-hmm. Let's talk. So you've got all kinds of options for lighting. Actually, you can spend years studying lighting, but those are the quick kinds of things you can do right away. I like the continuous LED lights, like the Nova Light that we're using right now, or the Rotolight, because, as you say, they're more or less idiot proof. When you shoot a flashes are more complicated, and you don't know what it looks like until you look at the picture after you take it. And so, too bright.
That's true.
Adjust. With digital cameras, it's not so bad because you can chimp. You can just keep adjusting and checking the pictures till it looks good. One thing I've noticed about using like these ring lights, these LED lights compared to a flash, flashes are so bright that even if you're shooting someone with a clear complexion, you will see every imperfection in their skin if your camera is in focus, which means you have to spend time in Lightroom or Photoshop generally cleaning up the skin. With these LED lights, I typically do little or no touch up on skin.
Yeah, they're soft. They're nice.
They're very soft. They're very flattering. It's totally changed the way I shoot. I use the only time I use the flash most of the time is when I'm at a Comic-Con or some event doing the over the shoulder, bouncing the light. And then I'll use it on a stand if I'm outside overpowering the light. And I'll give you an example.
I was starting thinking of like over the shoulder, boulder, all sorts of stupid stuff. My brain goes.
This is something we shot late afternoon at a park in Plano, Texas, and it was really bright. So I had the flash on a stand and I triggered it. So I had a remote. We're not going to go into the technicals. You guys can learn that. But it can look really, really good. I had it on a stand shooting the model. I always had her back to the sun. So her face is essentially in shade, but the sun's hitting the back of her. So you're getting a backlight. Here's one of the pictures that we shot at the park. And think about locations too, because if you're going to do something outside of a Comic-Con, in other words, you're going to set up a shoot, be on the lookout for really cool locations. Find something that complements or goes with the outfit that they're wearing. Let me find another one. Let's see. I can't remember if I showed this one. The background, this park, the restrooms were the walls for the outside the restaurants. We didn't shoot in the restrooms. Were really colorful. They were blue and purple and yellow. So we got these really cool backdrops for the pictures. And that's with the strobe as well. So I had a strobe on a stand to the side. You could probably get away with having a reflector. I think this picture was done. I think she's kind of facing, this was at a Comic-Con, and I think that's a north facing light. I could be wrong. I'm going to do something different. Oh, here's another one. This is with, now this one was with the flash on the camera, reflected behind me. Rocket Raccoon. That's Crystal Star. You will see, if you go to very many Comic-Cons, you're going to see her. She is one of the better,
she's always got new
well-known cosplayers out there. So anyway, consider where you're shooting too, because that can make your photographs look a lot more. That's not just for cosplayers, but if you're shooting cosplay, like I said, you're looking to do a really cool picture. You know, you don't want
it ordinary, you want it remarkable.
Yeah, you spend all this time and effort on your outfit and your, like I said, your makeup and hair. So do something really, really cool. Let's see what else. Okay, we're going to talk about cameras and lenses. I touched on this. You really probably want a better camera. You know, you want a Nikon or a Canon or a really good Sony. There are other brands. Those are the big three right now. I've been shooting Canon for the last few years, but I'm thinking of switching over to Sony because they've been putting some money into their R&D, and their technology is really cool. They make focusing really much easier.
Yeah, they've been up and coming.
They're number 3, so they're trying harder.
Well, also the lenses are interchangeable from the other brands, which kind of helps get people into them.
Right. I can
in the high ISO.
I'm not losing my Canon lenses. If I switch from Canon to Nikon, and I have a bunch of lenses, I can't use my Canon lenses on the Nikon camera or vice versa. But on the Sony, you can. And Sony makes great lenses, and Zeiss makes lenses for Sony, and Zeiss makes
automatic,
or
are they just manual?
Both.
Okay. And that's a big thing. Is like, I remember you could still interchange Nikon and Canon if you got the little
but then you lose you can't do autofocus.
Yep,
and
exactly, you have to manual focus. But I think on the Sony, when you switch them, it still does auto, doesn't it?
You can still do auto, and the Sony focusing has gotten really, really fast.
Mm-hmm. And they're little cameras too, so you don't get stopped as much.
Yeah, the Sonys are smaller and lighter, and you can even buy a full frame size camera, but it's smaller and lighter, so there's less fatigue. If you're shooting at a Comic-Con, my camera and strobe gets really, really heavy. I'm ready to leave after about 2 or 3 hours. Mm-hmm. You also, now you don't have to go crazy. You can get a cropped sensor. Like I said, you can get a 7D. You can get a used camera. There's nothing wrong with that. So you can save some. You don't have to spend very much money. But what you need to focus is the lens. So if you get a cropped sensor like the Canon 7D, you can buy a 50 millimeter 1.4 lens, $250.
They're not very much money for a prime.
You can actually get the 50 millimeter 1.8 for about $180, $150. And you put that on a cropped sensor like the 7D, and it's essentially 75, 80 millimeter lens, which is fantastic for portraits. But the reason in other words, you don't want to get the kit lens that comes with them because they're junk, because you can't open up the iris very much. So if you get a good prime lens, like a 50 millimeter lens, and you shoot at 1.4 or 1.8, you can get this really pretty effect where the person is in focus. Now you've really got to make sure you've got their eyes in focus.
Yes.
When you shoot that way, because your depth of field, your depth of focus isn't very much. But it takes the background out of focus, so you get a nice soft effect. It just makes for a very pleasing look.
Well, it's important to have the eyes in focus. If your eyes aren't in focus, you're not going to be able to recover your image. You would have to throw some special effect and make it look deliberately like it was an art piece.
Yeah.
Anybody who knows photography, if your eyes aren't super sharp, they're gonna go that.
If it's a wider shot, you can get away with it a little bit if you're only going to use it on the web. And that's another thing with the Sony, I'm having to rely on it to do my focusing, and I'm making sure that the little indicator is right on the eye, and it flashes to say, hey, I got the focus, but it still misses the focus more often than I would like. It usually gets it. Once again, that's one of the reasons I'm switching over to Sony. But yes, the eyes need to be in focus. Like I said, go take a bunch of pictures and start learning. It's really a lot of fun. You might find...
it's Halloween time. What better time to practice your cosplay?
Well, yeah, and you were mentioning too.
Get your kid to strap on their little trick-or-treat outfit, or your woman to put on her sexy outfit early. Go play.
If you're thinking of doing cosplay, bonus, if you didn't, most of you probably already know this, these little Halloween stores and so on, after Halloween, everything's going to go on sale. So this is your chance to either buy costumes for your cosplay.
Masks, swords.
Masks, swords.
Stuff that, yeah.
So it might be the outfit you want to wear, or it might just be raw materials that you're going to rip apart and reconfigure.
CVS and Walgreens do 75% off the day after.
So Halloween is about a month away, not quite a month away. But yeah, you
want to go like November 1st. If you hit it, they will literally, it's all off the shelves.
They're just trying to get it out of there as fast as they can.
And I have a friend who works at one of the stores, and he says if it doesn't sell, they throw it away. So yeah, I'm like, yeah, they want to get rid of it. So get over there and have your list of what you want and get that stuff.
I noticed in my notes, I mentioned this a little bit. When I've been at these Comic-Cons, I typically been shooting the entire outfit because I want to show off the entire outfit they're wearing. And I'm going to continue to do so, but I'm going to remember to move in closer for more shots, just to break it up, get more dynamic poses. In other words, have your character be the character act, because that can make for some really interesting pictures, and all your pictures won't look alike. So
yeah,
I find that
you want them to pretend like they're that character and stuff.
Yeah,
play with you.
Now
Social personality.
If it's someone dressed up as Catwoman, you won't even have to ask them to do it. Catwoman always brings the attitude with a whip, but most people are just going to stand there and just try to encourage them to have fun with it. You're not going to have trouble talking them into it. So break up the pictures. Now, do you have any posing tips? Since you're a model, do you have any posing tips for these men and women who...
Well, it depends if they're a model or not. I mean, if it's a professional model, they'll kind of naturally go into it if you just describe the emotion or what you want out of them. But if it's somebody who hasn't done it and they're super nervous, then I usually go with what they're naturally doing, and I let them know what's working about that, and then they start loosening up. And as they're loosening up, rather than you trying to correct them, tell them, yes, you want to add to the momentum. You want to get them playing with you. You want to get that energy going, because you're going to get some really unique stuff, and it's going to be a fun experience. So they're going to want to do it again. You're going to have fun with it, and you're going to at least get a couple good shots. I mean, who doesn't like someone who's having fun? So
if you're a photographer, I know what she's talking about. Be observant and notice these positions that they naturally just sort of fall into when they're not necessarily trying to pose, because a lot of times that is the basis for a really good pose for that person. It's really weird. That's something I've noticed.
Tell them, do that again.
Yeah. It's like, they go, I wasn't doing anything.
I wasn't doing anything. That's it. Hold it.
And by the way, if you're a model, if you're a cosplayer or a model and you do the duck face, I will never shoot you again.
I do the duck face all the time.
You know how to do it.
I have big lips.
Yeah, you can do it, but
they got messed up, and then I overcorrected them, and then I overcorrected them again, and then they turned into like.
Also, if photographers and cosplayers, see, we're about 33 minutes in, so we're not going to go very much longer. There are websites where you can feature your pictures. And this is a lot of fun. So if you're a cosplayer, you might be doing it for fun. Maybe you're trying to build up a career or a following as a cosplayer. Go and find these websites that take submissions. Now, first, you need really strong pictures. The one that I have been submitting pictures to is Geek Girls or Geek X Girls, geekxgirls.com. They do like 3 to 8 photo sets every day, Monday through Sunday. And so I submitted some pictures last year, and they published them, and it had information and links for the model and information and links to me. I got a ton of traffic to my website and for my photography from doing it. Now the model will get more attention and traffic. So if you're a model and you want to promote yourself, getting in on these websites or even magazines. You've got Cosplay
the
Culture
blogs
magazine
and stuff
now.
like that for cosplay, or if you go on Facebook too, you can key in those.
Another one find Geek Girls or Geek X Girls. They're also on Facebook. There's another magazine called Retro Lovely. They're not specifically a cosplay magazine, and their Facebook isn't necessarily cosplay. It's glamour or pinup, but they will put pictures up, and you'll get thousands. Sometimes you'll see thousands of likes on pictures. I've done a couple of your pictures on there that we got about 2,000 likes on.
We're like,
Facebook. This is Facebook.
Facebook.
Picture. Facebook pictures, Facebook safe. So you might once again, you've gone through all the trouble of a really cool outfit.
All was revealed right there. I'm like, what? Okay.
So you got all these pictures. You've done your makeup. You've done your hair. You've got great pictures. Post them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all that. Put them out there. There are a lot of cosplayers. Network with other cosplayers. It's really a lot of fun. It's mostly a supportive environment.
Pet life. For the adults.
You can have a whole lot of fun with this. The last thing.
You can have a whole lot of fun with this.
You really can.
Some of it's a little extreme.
Well,
but it's interesting.
The cosplay.
Never a dull moment.
When a lot of the cosplayers, it almost becomes a lifestyle kind of thing, or make friends with a lot of other cosplayers, and they just have a whole lot of fun with it. So it should be fun. There's no point in doing it if you're not having fun.
Totally.
So, like I said, I'll provide links and everything. Now, my website is sci-fi-maker.com. So if you go to sci-fi-maker.com, we're going to post this as a video. You'll find that there. It'll also be on YouTube. We're going to do audio, and we're going to make an audio podcast out of this so you can listen on iTunes or Stitcher or a few other places. So that's sci-fi-maker.com. If you're looking for this episode, look for sci-fi-maker.com/podcast, and it'll have all the podcast episodes. If you want to find my stuff on Instagram, you can go to sci-fi-maker.com/Instagram. If you want to see join our Facebook group, go to sci-fi-maker.com/Facebook. If you want to follow me on Twitter, sci-fi-maker.com/Twitter. So I'm not hard to find. My name's Mitch Todd, if you want to look that up too. I'm not the soccer player who died. There are a lot of Mitch Todds out there. It kind of surprised me if you Google me. I don't see that we've got it. We've got a few people watching. Does anyone have any questions before we finish up the show?
We're mellow today.
Do what?
We're mellow today.
We got all these people. Nobody's saying anything, which is
They're
fine.
quiet.
Anyway, we're going to be doing more of these blabs and more of these shows. We don't just talk cosplay and photography on the show. We also do film. Anyone who's creating science fiction. So if you're a science fiction fan and you want to learn how to create your own science fiction, whether that's books and short stories or animations, videos and films, gadgets, props, special effects, graphic novels, comic books. We interview people on this show who do that. Some of them for a hobby, some of them for a living. If you want to get in touch with me, you can go to the website and go to the contact page. You can leave us a question, or you can tell us your story, or you can send us links to the science fiction work that you've done. We'll be happy to feature it. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching.
Thanks, guys.